So good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's a new month. Can you believe? Did anybody have some exciting things happen yesterday on April Fools? No?
Yeah, April Fool's joke.
Yeah, nothing.
My dad was good for that.
Yeah. Our daughter Natalie is very good. She does things like put spiders and what were some of the other ones that she did? The kids are like, yeah, Mom. They already got it. They're 9 and 8. So, yeah. Well, it's a new month and we have a new theme. And because we will celebrate Easter later this month, I'm sharing a new term. You may have heard of it. And we're going to make it our theme for this month, and it's called Easter Moments. Has anybody heard of Easter Moments? Well, you're going to learn all about Easter Moments. Easter moments are when we consciously, intentionally, and deliberately let something die that does not serve us so that we can rise into a heightened spiritual awareness, a new consciousness, and an expanded way of revealing the spiritual nature that is already ours so that we can share our gifts with the world. Okay, that's really a lot. It's a mouthful, so I'm going to say it again. Easter moments are those moments when we consciously, intentionally, deliberately let something die that does not serve us so that we can rise into a heightened spiritual awareness, a new consciousness, and an expanded way of revealing the spiritual nature that is already ours so that we can share our gifts with the world. And I'm big about that. I'm big about our sharing the gifts with the world because it doesn't do any good to keep your light under that bushel, right? That's another song. Well, from Godspell. Okay, there you go. All right. And that is our metaphysical meaning beyond the metaphysical meaning beyond the physical interpretation of Jesus's crucifixion and resurrection, isn't it? Right? This month, I want us to explore having Easter moments in various areas of our lives, and each week we will engage in a specific and sacred activity to support that moment. You probably noticed the table that's here up front, and we'll bring it up a little bit further when it's time. Suzanne will help me with that. And it does have something to do with today's sacred activity, and we will get into that in just a little bit. So our topic this morning is, who do you think you are? Perhaps, just perhaps, who you think you are really has nothing to do with who you really are and what you are meant to do in this world. Would you be willing to have an Easter moment today and let some of those thoughts go so that you can enter a space of divine connection and purpose you have perhaps never felt before? If so, well, good. You're in the right place this morning. I often like to start with a story, and today I'm going to do the same. This particular story is a true story about a young boy named Sparky. Have you heard the story? Oh, good. All right. For Sparky, school was all but impossible. He failed every subject in the 8th grade. In high school, he flunked physics, Latin, algebra, and English. It's pretty much everything, right? He didn't do much better in sports. Although he did manage to make the school's golf team, he promptly lost the only important match of the season. There was a consolation match, but he lost that too. Throughout his youth, Sparky was awkwardly socially. He was not actually disliked by the other students. No one cared that much. He was astonished if a classmate even said hello to him outside of school hours. There's no way to tell how he might have done at dating because he never once asked a girl to go out in high school. He was too afraid of being turned down. Sparky is what you would call a loser. He knew it, his classmates knew it, everyone knew it. So he rolled with it. However, one thing that was important to Sparky, and he was very proud of this, we might even say that had something to do with his purpose, it was drawing. It was drawing. He was proud of his artwork, even though no one else appreciated it. In his senior year of high school, he submitted some cartoons to the editor of the yearbook, and the cartoons were turned down. Despite this particular rejection, Sparky was so convinced of his ability that he decided to become a professional artist. After completing high school, he wrote a letter to Walt Disney Studios. He was told to send some of his samples of his artwork, and he was given a subject for a proposed cartoon. Sparky drew the proposed cartoon. He spent really a lot of time, a great deal of time, on all of the other drawings that he submitted. And in his mind, they were perfect, and so he sent them in. And it seemed to take forever, but finally the reply came from the Disney Studios. As you might guess, he was rejected once again. Here was yet another loss for a loser. So Sparky decided to write his autobiography in cartoons. And in this autobiographical cartoon, he described his childhood self, a little boy loser and chronic underachiever. He was a little boy whose kite would never fly and who never succeeded in kicking a football. And this little cartoon character would soon become famous worldwide. For that little character was Charlie Brown, and Sparky was the late, great Charles Schulz. And of course, the autobiographical cartoon became the Peanuts comic strip, which who still reads that? I do every morning.
Actually, there's a museum in Santa Rosa.
There is, and there's a park in, isn't there a park? Oh, no, that's the Dennis the Menace Park in Monterey. Ah, okay. Got him crossed there. Who do you think you are? Seneca, a Roman philosopher at the time of Jesus, said, "What you think of yourself is much more important than what others think of you." Sparky may have erroneously thought of himself as a loser, but he had two very important things going for him. First, he had a certain attitude about life. That attitude was that if things were meant to work out, they would. He also had a passion that he chose to pursue regardless of others' opinion, and that was his art. And that made all the difference in the world for him and for the world. Because really, what would the world be like without Charlie Brown, Linus, and Lucy, and Peppermint Patty, and Pigpen, and Beethoven, and of course, Snoopy, who was my youngest daughter's favorite.
Weinstock.
Woodstock. Oh, you guys are good. I should be throwing out candy or something here. And where would the world be? Where would the world be without you? Where would the world be without you? I can tell you there would be a void, an empty space that can never be filled because only you, only your unique self can fill it. So I want you to begin thinking about your Easter moment this morning. What belief about yourself can you let die today? What can you let die, let go of, and let be gone forever, let die today so that you can rise into a heightened spiritual awareness, a new consciousness, an expanded way of revealing the spiritual nature that is already yours. It's already there. In his book, Know Yourself, by Ernest Holmes, he writes, "The insistent and universal design for self-expression is the divine urge within us, even God himself tapping at the walls of our heart, urging us on to a fuller life." Like that. Feels good. What can you let die today so that you can more clearly hear God tapping at the walls of your heart? Is it the belief that you are somewhat less than, and in that belief you regularly compare yourself to others? Let me ask you a rhetorical question. Have you ever caught yourself comparing yourself to someone else? Oh, I have. Maybe they had more than you. More money, more education, more physical beauty, more of something. Have you ever noticed how that comparison makes you feel? There's a great line that comes from an ancient philosophy, and it simply says, "Comparison is the death of joy." Comparison is the death of joy. You and I are not here to compare ourselves to anyone else. You are certainly not here to try to imitate or duplicate what another person is or has. You are meant to be a unique, one-of-a-kind expression of the divine. God does not need two of anything because that would be redundant and duplicative, right? Mm-hmm. Neither of which serves the unfolding, expanding, creative nature of the divine. Might you have an Easter moment today with comparing yourself? Or thinking you need to imitate or duplicate somebody else? Or have you made what we could label mistakes in the past and you think you are defined by them? That's a big one for me because I know that the human race is the only consciousness of all living being that can constantly and continually punish themselves by remembering something they did. You don't see the tiger out there going, "Man, you know, That gazelle that I brought down 2 months ago, I wonder if he had a family. I feel sort of bad about that. No, 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 no. We're the only ones that keep reliving and punishing ourselves for things that we did in the past. So that's something that I'm willing to let go this morning, willing to let die. Could you have an Easter moment today and release defining yourself today by that mistake or those mistakes of the past? I say yes. In the Sermon on the Mount, we are told that God makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends the rain on the just and the unjust. But what does that mean? It means that it doesn't matter who you are or what you've done, you are loved and blessed unconditionally at all times. Not just on Sundays or on the second Tuesday of each month. All times you are loved and blessed unconditionally. So could you have an Easter moment today about defining yourself and your past mistakes? Do you have maybe a poor self-image, a limiting concept of yourself? This is such a huge block to your own good and your ability to reveal that spiritual nature that is already yours. Can you have an Easter moment with that thought today? Maybe there's some other thought in you about you this morning, and that you might say, I'm going to let that die so I can dare to be magnificent and glorious and make a difference in the world. I'm going to let that go. Or what about letting die a habit that simply does not serve your magnificence? Oh, okay, I could probably let go of some of the chocolate I eat. Maybe. Or the carbs or food that just does not serve the nutrition, the needs of my body, right? Could you let that die this morning? Or what about the voice inside you that isn't yours? Anybody have those voices that are not yours? But rather, it's a teacher that you might have had, or a parent, or a so-called friend, or an ex-spouse, or someone like that who said to you at some point, don't you dare do this, right? There was a Cadillac commercial during the Oscars one year that I think would rival any Super Bowl commercial. I call it the Don't You Dare commercial. It was a series of shots of young adults doing amazing things in their particular environment, despite what they were apparently told as kids. Did anybody see it? Okay. If not, well, it's your lucky day because I have it. Let's see if we can get it to play.
I think the first step to being able to create a helpful solution is just to be able to recognize problems in the world around you.
When I was a kid, scientists were my childhood superheroes.
I'm really passionate about starting things that move the world forward.
Pursue your own dreams.
Persevere.
Ignore what people say you can't do.
Don't you dare change the rules.
Don't you dare play with your food.
Don't you dare get any big ideas.
We're looking for ways to connect with each other. Just ask questions.
How can tomorrow be better?
Don't you dare take that apart.
Don't you dare paint on the walls.
Don't you dare stay up all night on the computer.
I think I want to see people dare to empathize.
Don't you dare tell stories.
Don't you dare play games with me.
Don't you dare raise your voice.
Tara Greeley. Yeah, wasn't that Brene Brown's book? Yeah, another book that we read. Okay. So don't you dare change the rules. Don't you dare play with your food. Don't you dare get any big ideas. Don't you dare take that apart. Don't you dare paint on the walls. Don't you dare stay up all night on the computer. Don't you dare play games with me. Don't you dare raise your voice. Anybody ever get a don't you dare growing up? Or you shouldn't? Shouldn't do that, right? Only those who dare drive the world forward. Only those who dare drive the world forward. Isn't that an amazing line? I love that. This morning, will you dare to have an Easter moment so that you too will be one of the amazing people who drives the world forward? Yes? Ready to do that? Okay, so this morning I want us to find or rediscover a part of ourselves that got lost in the ignorance or fear and rid ourselves of those lesser ideas about ourselves so that we can rise into that heightened spiritual awareness, a new consciousness, and an expanded way of revealing the spiritual nature that is already ours. On your chair this morning, you found a small piece of paper, and in a moment I'm going to have, I'm going to have a moment of quiet, right? And I'm going to let you do a couple of things. First, in prayerful contemplation, as Ernest Holmes once said, review the past and try to find out just what you have been thinking and doing to create this burden in your minds. In a moment, you will take a bit of time to do that here. Review what might be burdening your mind. Review who you might have been thinking you are and are ready to have an Easter moment this morning, right here today. And when you identify that, write it down on that piece of paper that you have. Next, I want you to bring the paper to the front table, which is kind of our little altar of sorts, and I want you to tear that paper in half and place it face down on the altar under one of the candles. Let's start at the back candles so that people don't have to reach over the candles, right? What I'd like you to do then is light your candle. And then on the front of the table there are affirmation cards, and they're all different. So I'd like you to just pick an affirmation card. And then remain in the silence before and after you are complete. And once you have your affirmation card, take a few moments in contemplation of what others, while the others complete the process, okay? With our ceremony complete, then we will continue on with the service, okay?
You should say tear it in half or fold it in half?
No, tear it in half.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to stop this.